Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. I am so excited to guide you through today's topic. We are unpacking one of Australia's most profound, completely baffling, and honestly, downright legendary historical cold cases. We're going to piece together a puzzle that has literally stumped detectives, code breakers, and the public for decades. Yep, we are talking about the Somerton Man.
All right, let's dive into this by putting ourselves directly in the shoes of investigators back in 1948. Imagine staring at a perfectly peaceful body on a beach. There are no signs of a struggle, no wallet, no ID, and absolutely zero clues as to who this guy is. But what if I told you that a single, tiny, torn scrap of paper hidden deep inside his clothes would become the absolute obsession of amateur sleuths and even international intelligence agencies for over 70 years?
So let's get right into Section 1, The Body on the Beach, a baffling discovery.
Let's trace the man's final day. It's November 30th, 1948. Authorities figure he arrives in Adelaide by overnight train around 8:30 in the morning. By 11 a.m., he checks a brown suitcase into the railway station cloakroom. Fast forward to 7 p.m. that evening. Witnesses on Somerton Beach spot a well-dressed man lying in the sand, his head resting against the seawall. They actually see him extend his right arm and just let it drop limply. They assume he's just sleeping or maybe a bit drunk, so they leave him be. But the next morning, December 1st, he's found in that exact same spot, dead, with a half-smoked cigarette resting on his collar.
Now, the most terrifying aspect of this discovery is the sheer absence of identity. In his pockets, police find an unused train ticket to Henley Beach, some juicy fruit gum, a comb, and matches. When they finally locate his suitcase a month later, they find a stenciling brush and a cut-down table knife. But here is the absolute kicker. Every single label on his clothing, both on his body and in his suitcase, has been meticulously cut out. I mean, who does that? The only unique physical link they had was a very specific, unusual Barber orange wax thread that was used to repair his trousers.
Moving right along to Section 2, Codes and Hidden Clues, the Rubaiyat.
Months into the investigation, a pathologist re-examining the man's clothing makes this shocking discovery. Tucked deep inside a secret fob pocket in his trousers is a tiny, tightly rolled-up scrap of paper. Printed on it are the words Taman Shud. It's a Persian phrase that translates to "it is ended" or "it is finished." Experts quickly realized this scrap was torn from the final page of a really rare edition of a 12th century poetry book called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. It's a book whose central theme is living life to the fullest and having zero regrets when it ends.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how baffling this puzzle really is. Police put out a nationwide call, and a man comes forward with the exact copy of the poetry book that the scrap was torn from. He says he found it tossed into the back of his unlocked car near Somerton Beach. But wait, it gets weirder. Detectives shine a UV light on the back cover of the book and find indentations from previous handwriting. It's a 5-line ciphertext made up of seemingly random capital letters. Cryptographers from the Department of Defense were called in, but the text was so short and so strange that it literally remained an uncracked code for decades.
The mystery only deepens from there, because there was something else indented on that book cover, an unlisted phone number. Police trace it to a young nurse named Jo Thompson, who lived a mere 400 meters from where the body was found. When detectives show her a plaster death mask of the Somerton Man, she looks completely taken aback, like she might actually faint. Yet she firmly denies knowing him. She admits she owned a copy of the Rubaiyat during World War II, but says she gave it to an Australian Army lieutenant named Alf Boxall. Police think, boom, we've cracked it, until they track down Alf Boxall in Sydney. He's alive, and he still has his copy of the book, completely intact.
Let's look at Section 3, Spies, Lovers, and Poison, the Cold War Era.
You've got to remember the context here. It's 1948, the dawn of the Cold War. Geopolitical tension is thick in the air. Consider the facts. You have a man with removed clothing labels, an uncrackable cipher, and a body found relatively close to Adelaide. Now, Adelaide was a huge hub of interest back then because of the nearby Woomera test range, a top-secret Anglo-Australian military research facility. Naturally, sensational theories completely took over the public imagination. People were absolutely convinced this man was a Soviet spy or maybe an intelligence agent who knew too much and got assassinated.
But if he was assassinated, how was it done? The autopsy found internal congestion and an enlarged spleen, but absolutely zero foreign substances or physical trauma. However, a pharmacology expert named Professor Hicks gave some seriously chilling testimony at the inquest. He suggested the man was likely killed by a massive dose of a fast-acting, untraceable poison, like digitalis or wabane. It would leave almost no trace, induce heart failure, and perfectly explain why the man appeared to just pass away peacefully in his sleep on that beach.
Section 4. The DNA Breakthrough. Mystery Solved.
Science can often pick up right where traditional detective work hits a brick wall. Professor Derek Abbott from the University of Adelaide, working with renowned American genealogist Colin Fitzpatrick, undertook this truly monumental task. Step 1. They actually managed to extract mitochondrial DNA from a few strands of hair that were miraculously preserved in the plaster death mask made back in 1949. Step 2. They used investigative genetic genealogy to trace his family lineage. And Step 3. They painstakingly triangulated that DNA with distant cousins on both the maternal and paternal sides to build out a complete family tree.
So, the crucial point is this massive, history-making plot twist. In July of 2022, after 73 years of absolute mystery, the Somerton Man finally gets his name back. Carl Charles Webb. He was a 43-year-old electrical engineer and instrument maker born in Footscray, a suburb of Melbourne.
The reality of his identity is just so striking when you compare it to the rumors. On one side, you have this decades-long public fantasy, the international super spy, entangled in Cold War espionage and secret codes. On the other side, you have the tragic reality of Carl Webb, a solitary, moody engineer who suffered from severe mental health issues, had lost multiple family members recently, and who actually wrote his own poetry, often fixated on the subject of death.
It is endlessly fascinating how the most bizarre, cryptic clues actually fit a completely banal life. Remember the clothing tags with the name T. Keene that police thought were a spy decoy? Carl Webb's brother-in-law was Thomas Keene. Webb was simply wearing hand-me-down clothes. What about the uncrackable spy cipher? Well, Webb loved betting on the horses. Researchers now strongly believe those letters were just his shorthand initials for horse names. And why was a Melbourne man in Adelaide with no ID? Actually, his wife, Dorothy, or Doff, had recently left him due to his behavior and moved to South Australia. He was likely there just trying to track her down.
Which brings us to Section 5, the enduring mystery, unanswered questions.
I want to leave you with a final thought today. We finally know his name is Carl Webb, but will we ever know what truly happened in his final hours? Science solved his identity, and genealogical research explained his clothes and his codes. But the exact reason he ended up dead on Somerton Beach, sitting perfectly still against a seawall with a Persian poem about the end of life tucked deep inside a secret pocket, remains a haunting mystery. Did he take his own life in a moment of poetic despair? Did his heart simply give out? What do you take away from Carl Webb's story? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep seeking the truth, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.